Most self-employed individuals wait too long to form their LLC, and that delay can cost you. It can cost you in things like liability protection, cost you taxes, and just cost you having a messy finances overall. So in this video, I'm going to talk about what an LLC is, how it can help you in your self-employed business, and how to set one up correctly. So let's first talk about the LLC itself. What is an LLC? Well, the LLC stands for Limited Liability Corporation. It's a legal entity that you set up with your state. And think of it like a bubble that you put around your business. So if there's any liabilities, which are also things like a lawsuit or any agreement signed by the business itself, then those can only be settled and paid for by the assets inside the bubble of the LLC around your business. So things you're outside the business, your personal items like your house, cars, retirement, everything else is protected from these lawsuits or any other liability with the bubble that is there. Doesn't magically fix everything by itself, but having it there offers that layer of protections. Why do you need an LLC in a business? Well, an LLC, as I mentioned earlier, has a liability protection component to it, and that liability is there. But the real reason, or the other reason I should say, the reason we're going to talk about in this video is for the tax and other financial side benefits you get from the LLC. Just having an LLC, first of all, just mentally puts people in the space where this is a business separate from my personal, so it helps you really draw that line of distinction between personal and business, and you stop commingling the funds, because that is one of the biggest reasons people overpay on taxes, because they're a mess commingling those funds. So setting up that LLC, first of all, just draws that line mentally for you that there is that certain separation, which will help you get cleaner finances. It also then, from tax perspective, opens the door to what we call the S corporation. Now, the S corporation is separate from the LLC, so you'll see a lot of people talking about, am I taxed as an LLC or am I taxed as a S corporation out there? Well, they're two different things, in fact, and you can't be taxed as an LLC. So by default, getting an LLC doesn't change your taxes. If you're only one owner, you're still taxed as a sole proprietor, but it opens the door to be taxed as that S corporation, which can bring along some tax savings. Now, we'll dive deeper into that in a future video, so go ahead and subscribe if you want to get that when it comes out. But that's the real benefit of having the LLC, is opening that door. Now, it also makes you more legitimate, depending on the type of business you have. When you're dealing with third parties, be it vendors or contractors, any clients even, it just offers that level of professionalism when you have an actual business instead of just going and running the business under your personal name. Now, that's the benefit of the LLC. Let's talk about what an LLC does not do. And I kind of alluded to this earlier. It doesn't change your taxes by itself. So creating the LLC, you're a single member LLC more than likely. And in that scenario, when you have one owner, it is what the IRS calls a disregarded entity. So they don't even acknowledge that LLC for tax purposes, and you're still taxed as that sole proprietor. So just by itself doesn't change your taxes, and you don't get any benefits or any additional deductions, things like that, as having an LLC versus running as a sole proprietor. It's really strictly about that opening the door for potential changes you can make, strategies you can take, I should say, with taxes, but by itself it doesn't do anything to save you on your taxes. It also doesn't replace insurance. I talked a lot about that liability concept, and if you want to dive deeper in that, I'm not an attorney. Speak to an attorney to really dive deep into what that liability does and doesn't do for you with the LLC. But I do know it doesn't replace the insurance or the need for insurance. So you still want to get that professional or business liability for your business, cover you if any incident happens. The LLC is just that additional layer of protection on top of that. So that's what it does. That's what it doesn't do. Let's talk about how you actually then go about setting up your LLC. And so an LLC, I think I mentioned this at the very beginning, is actually something that's set up by the state. So you would go to your state or your Secretary of State. They would have filing instructions, probably a form to file, fill out and file with the Secretary of State and pay some sort of payment, and you can create your LLC through the state. Now, you can do that by yourself. I do recommend using some sort of a service or an attorney. Services like those online LLC formation have attorneys behind them. So these are all going to be done by attorneys at some level, but you want to use a professional and not do it yourself, although it is something you could do at that level. Once you have that LLC filed and you get the documentation back from the Secretary of State that they have filed it and you now have the LLC, the next thing you want to go do is get your EIN number from the IRS. Because it's a state creating it, you need to register it then essentially with the IRS and get that EIN number. That's the employee identification number, but that's that number similar to your personal Social Security number, but that's the number that identifies the business with the IRS. And when you file taxes, if you're doing the S corporation, or even if you're filing it as part of your Schedule C, you want to include that EIN number, and any documents and contracts or things you get, 1099s, you want those issued in that EIN number. So that's the second thing you need to go do when setting it up. Third thing you want to do, and this is where the attorney really becomes important, is you need an operating agreement. Now this is very important if you have more than one owner, because that can stipulate how money is shared and how decisions are made. All those kind of things get set up in the operating agreement. But even if you're the only owner and all the decisions are made by you personally and all the money is going to you personally, then everything, it's still very important to have that operating agreement. It really solidifies that LLC as a real business, especially if you're looking for that liability protection. You need to do the things to make sure it is separate from you personally. It is its own entity, and this is one of those things that really solidifies that. And so an attorney, or even those services with the attorneys behind them, will create you that operating agreement. It's just a very important document to have. A lot of people skip over it, especially if they do it themselves, but you want to have that as part of your formation documents establishing your LLC. You don't want to shortcut this. You don't want to cheap out on it, especially if you're looking for that liability protection. Any of those things you do puts a chink in the armor of that bubble, and they can pierce through, piercing the corporate veil, term you've probably heard a lot. Those are the things that help attorneys pierce through and expose your personal assets if that is ever becomes an issue. Now the IRS could come along and say you're not a real LLC because you're not doing this. I haven't ever really heard of a case of that happening, but it is potential and it may happen out there that I'm just not aware of. So that is a potential reason why you want to make sure you're doing it correctly, because if you're going the S corporation route, you don't want the IRS disqualifying your LLC, which would then take away your ability to file on that S corporation. Again, S corporation, get into that in a future video. So not diving deep into what exactly that is, just know it's something that can benefit you from tax planning, and you want that ability to have in your back pocket to take advantage of that when it makes sense for you and your business. All right, that's forming it. Now you've got it formed. What are the next steps after you form it? And the first thing you need to do is take those documents you get from the state, your EIN number, possibly that operating agreement, depending on the bank, and you want to take that to a bank that you're going to use for your business account and open that business account. It's very important to get that account in a business name. Again, you want to make sure you're operating this as its own separate business to make sure you're securing all that liability and securing it as its own separate business. And one of the foundation things about that is a bank. I'll dive deeper into business banking in another video. Again, another reason to subscribe if you want that video as soon as that one comes out as well. Any contracts that you have in place or any agreements that you've made, if you've started the business and are just getting around to creating that LLC, you want to go back and actually amend those or somehow get those contracts put into the name of the LLC, because you want anything operating from the business to be in there. So payment processors are another one that I include in here. You want that payment processor, if you already have one set up, you need to get it transitioned over to the name of the LLC, or just start a new one with that LLC name, depending on what the payment processor is and what they'll allow you to do. So just note that sometimes you just have to start a new one up, let the old one die out. That was under your personal name. That way you get it in the name of the LLC. Again, any of the income you're getting in with that payment processor, or if you're getting payments any other way, you want to make sure those get deposited into that business bank account, and so they become a part of the business and they're not going to you personally any longer. So that's one thing to set up. And the last thing is very important that a lot of people skip over, especially if you're just a solopreneur running a small business. Maybe you're just a contractor, a real estate agent, getting one commission income from your broker. You really do want to set up some accounting software. I recommend QuickBooks Online. I'll dive deeper into setting that up and stuff in a future video. But no, that's the next step, is to get that QuickBooks or whatever accounting system you want up and running. I recommend QuickBooks Online because it is the most popular here in the United States. Which makes it easier to find help. So there's bookkeepers, more of them know QuickBooks Online than some of the other options out there. Accountants and CPAs, they're going to be more familiar with that QuickBooks Online than they are any of the other options. That's why I highly recommend QuickBooks Online. Now they have a variety out there. I don't want to get too deep in this topic because, as I mentioned, that's a topic for another video. But they have they call it a SKU, but a variety of QuickBooks Online that's called QuickBooks Online Self-Employed. Stay away from that one. Even though it sounds right for you being self-employed, it actually is a pretty terrible product in my opinion. I know I'm a little higher standard being a CPA, but it really is a terrible product from an accounting standpoint. I get the concept that they're trying to do there, but just avoid that one. Get the real QuickBooks Online Simple Starts, the basic one that starts out, and then they go up there depending on what you need in your business, how many users, if you're going to use AR, AP, things like that, you may need to go up to a higher level. But Simple Start QuickBooks is where you need to at least start your QuickBooks Online journey. So that's the basics of getting things set up and getting your LLC set up, your next steps going through that. So any small business, if you're doing this, it's really important, no matter what your size, to get that LLC, get it set up properly, and get all those bank accounts, accounting system, everything else set up and doing right because that's the foundation of your business. And if you don't get that right, then it's hard to then grow your business, run your business properly. And as we get into as a CPA, hard to make sure you're getting your taxes right if you don't have it set up properly. So hope that was helpful. If you found some value in it, give me a thumbs up. As I mentioned, I've got some more videos coming out. It's going to be a whole series on setting up your self-employed business, from setting up the LLC in this one. Next one, I'm going to be about the bank accounts, diving deeper into those and what's involved in getting the bank account for your business. So subscribe if you want that when it comes available. Otherwise, thank you for watching.